After my brother drunkenly crashed his car, our parents paid $12,000 in hush money. Then they looked me in the eye and said, "You're covering this. You're the responsible one." When I said no, Mom snapped. "Then don't come to Thanksgiving." My brother chuckled. "Guess who's still the favorite?" But a week later, I got a call from his employer. Turns out he lied on his background check, and now they want me involved in the investigation. I was standing at my kitchen counter, half awake, pouring my first cup of coffee when my phone started buzzing. The screen lit up with a name I wasn't expecting at 6:42 a.m., Dad. I stared at it for a second. My father didn't call me this early unless something was wrong. I hesitated before answering. "Hey, Dad." His voice was tense. "Get to your brother's place. Now." I blinked. "Why? What happened?" "Just go," he said, clipped and sharp, and then hung up. I stared at my phone, then sighed, setting my mug down. I already knew how this would go. My younger brother, Liam, had done something stupid again. And once again, my parents were jumping in to shield him from the consequences. It was always the same story. I grabbed my keys and headed out the door. 15 minutes later, I pulled up to Liam's apartment in Charlotte, North Carolina. My parents' car was already in the driveway, which was never a good sign. The moment I stepped inside, I was hit with the stale stench of beer and sweat. The blinds were drawn, leaving the small living room in dim light. Liam was slouched on the couch, an ice pack pressed to the side of his face. His hair was a mess, his knuckles red and scraped. His eyes flicked toward me, bloodshot and heavy-lidded, then back to Dad, who stood by the window, arms crossed. Mom was kneeling beside Liam, fussing over him like he was a wounded child. "Sweetheart, does it still hurt?" I exhaled sharply. "What the HLL is going on?" Dad turned to me, his expression stony. "Your brother crashed his car last night." My stomach dropped. "What?" Liam groaned and shifted, rubbing his temples. "It's fine. Fine," I repeated, my voice rising. "You were drinking, weren't you?" Liam gave me a half-lidded smirk, but didn't answer. That was all the confirmation I needed. Mom shot me a glare. "Lower your voice, Jonah." I ignored her. "Did anyone get hurt?" "No," Dad answered. "It was just him." "But," he exhaled sharply, "it was bad. He drove off the road, went through someone's fence, and hit a tree." I ran a hand down my face. "Jesus Christ, Liam." He scoffed. "Calm down, man." I turned to my parents. "What's happening now? Police involved?" Dad's jaw tensed. "No, we handled it." I frowned. "Handled it how?" Mom straightened, brushing imaginary dust off her jeans. "We paid the owner of the property for the damages. And we took care of the tow yard fee." My stomach twisted. "How much?" Dad's mouth was a hard line. 12,000. 12? I choked on my words. "Are you serious?" Liam shrugged. "Could have been worse." I turned on him. "Could have been worse?" "You could have K-led someone, Liam." Mom stepped in between us, her voice cold. "Enough." I clenched my jaw. "So, let me get this straight. You paid to make this disappear?" Dad gave a stiff nod. "And now what? You're just going to pretend it never happened?" Dad exhaled sharply. "No, you're going to help." I froze. "Help how?" "You're going to cover it." I let out a short, humorless laugh. "Excuse me." Mom's voice softened, but it was the kind of softness she used when she expected obedience. "Jonah, you have a stable job. You're responsible. We need to make sure we don't fall behind financially." I stared at them in disbelief. "So let me get this straight. Liam gets drunk, crashes his car, you bail him out, and now I'm supposed to foot the bill?" Dad's face was impassive. "Yes." I shook my head, scoffing. "Unbelievable." Mom's expression darkened. "We have always supported you, Jonah. You know that." I laughed, but there was no humor in it. "You support me? Are you joking?" "Don't be dramatic," she snapped. I took a step back. "I'm not paying." End of discussion. Mom's lips thinned. "Then don't come to Thanksgiving." My chest tightened. "What?" She lifted her chin. "You heard me. If you won't be part of this family when we need you, then don't bother showing up when it's convenient for you." Liam chuckled from the couch. "Guess who's still the favorite?" I turned to him, anger flaring in my chest. "You think this is funny?" He just smirked. "A little bit." I took a slow breath, then met my mother's gaze. "You know what? Fine. Enjoy Thanksgiving without me." Then I turned and walked out the door. A week later, my phone rang. An unknown number. I almost ignored it, but something made me pick up. "Hello." A professional voice answered. "Is this Jonah Carter?" "Yes." "This is Bradford and Gray Consulting, Liam's employer." I frowned. "Okay." The man cleared his throat. "We're conducting an internal review. Liam listed you as a reference, and there are discrepancies in his background check. We need to confirm some details." My stomach nodded. "What kind of discrepancies?" He stated that he graduated from Duke University with a degree in business administration and previously worked in management at a financial firm in Raleigh. I blinked. "What? My brother never even finished college. And as for the management job, it was total fiction. Can you confirm these details?" the man asked. I took a slow breath. Liam never graduated, and he never worked in finance. The man was silent for a beat. Then he sighed. "That's what we were afraid of." I rubbed my temples. Why are you calling me? Well, since you were listed as a reference, we needed to confirm the information. If it's false, there may be legal repercussions. My mouth went dry. Legal? If he signed official company documents with false information, yes. I exhaled. So what happens now? Termination is likely. If necessary, further investigation may follow. I should have felt bad, but all I felt was cold, bitter satisfaction. Understood, I said and hung up. My parents showed up at my apartment 3 days later, furious. How could you do this to him? Mom spat the moment I opened the door. I leaned against the frame. Do what? Tell the truth. Dad's face was red. You humiliated your brother. I scoffed. No, he humiliated himself. Mom's voice shook. He got fired, Jonah. And now he's in serious trouble. I folded my arms. He did that to himself. And you let him think it was okay. Mom clenched her fists. You are not welcome at Thanksgiving. I met her glare, unflinching. I already said I wasn't coming. They stormed out, leaving me standing there, pulse pounding. For the first time in my life, I realized I wasn't the one losing something. They were. And for once, I wasn't cleaning up their mess. I stood in my doorway for a long time after they left, the air still thick with their anger. My heartbeat was still thudding in my ears, my jaw clenched so tight it ached. They had stormed out like I was the villain in this situation, like I had done something terrible to them. Not once did they acknowledge that Liam had lied, hated, and crashed his damn car drunk off his ass. And now? Now he was jobless, and it was somehow my fault. I finally shut the door, exhaling through my nose. My fingers trembled slightly as I ran a hand through my hair. A part of me, a small, beaten-down part, felt guilty. That was the part my parents had conditioned into me. The part that had spent my whole life fixing things, smoothing things over, making things right when Liam screwed up. But the larger part of me? That part was done. I had told the truth. That wasn't a crime. Liam had done this to himself. I just wasn't willing to keep pretending otherwise. I moved to the kitchen, still too wired to sit down. My phone was on the counter where I'd left it, the screen still dark. No missed calls. Not that I expected any. I should have felt relieved. Instead, a hollow, gnawing feeling settled in my chest. This wasn't over. Not by a long shot. The next morning, I woke up to 12 missed calls. 4 from my mom, 2 from Dad, 6 from Liam. I let out a slow breath and stared at the ceiling. It wasn't even 7 a.m. yet, but they were already on a warpath. I debated ignoring it, just shutting off my phone, walking away from the whole mess. But I knew them. If I didn't answer, they'd just show up again. The moment I unlocked my phone, another call came through. Mom. I sighed and picked up. What? She didn't waste a second. How could you do this to your own brother? I pinched the bridge of my nose. Good morning to you too, Mom. This isn't a joke, Jonah. Her voice was shrill, bordering on hysterical. He lost his job. They might press charges. And whose fault is that? I said, keeping my tone level. She head in a breath. He's your brother. Yeah. And you could have just played along, she snapped. Said he worked somewhere else. Said he went to Duke. How hard would that have been? I let out a hollow laugh. You seriously called me at the crack of dawn to yell at me for telling the truth? You didn't have to tell them everything, she shot back. You could have covered for him just a little. But no, you had to throw him under the bus. Mom. I interrupted, voice hard. Do you even hear yourself? Silence. Then she exhaled sharply. Your father and I raised you better than this. I barked out a bitter laugh. Oh, really? Because from where I'm standing, you raised me to be your goddamn backup plan. You raised him to be a spoiled little SHD who can't handle consequences. Her breath hitched. And for the first time in my life, I didn't care. Let me ask you something. I went on, my voice dangerously quiet. If I had been the one who crashed my car drunk, would you have paid to cover it up? No answer. Would you have spent 12 grand to make sure I didn't get arrested? I pressed. More silence. That's what I thought. I didn't wait for her to answer. I just hung up. An hour later, Liam showed up at my apartment. I wasn't surprised. I was still in my sweatpants, drinking coffee on my couch, when he started banging on the door like a lunatic. I debated letting him pound on it until he got tired and left. But something in me, the part that still needed closure, maybe, made me get up and open it. He shoved past me without waiting for an invitation. Are you serious, man? He barked. You really told them I lied? I shut the door behind him. Yes. He turned on me, eyes wild. Why the HLL would you do that? I leaned against the counter, arms crossed. Because they asked me a direct question, and I don't lie. His face twisted in rage. You could have covered for me. I arched an eyebrow, like Mom and Dad always do. Yeah. He threw his arms out. That's what family does. I let out a humorless laugh. You mean, that's what they do for you? You ever seen them cover for me? Huh. His jaw worked, but he didn't answer. Did they pay off my college loans? I went on. Did they hand me thousands of dollars when I was struggling? Did they ever look the other way when I screwed up? He shifted uncomfortably. No, I said coldly. Because I was never allowed to screw up. That was your role. And guess what? You played it well. He scoffed. So what? This is about jealousy. I exhaled through my nose, shaking my head. You really don't get it, do you? Get what? I met his gaze, my voice steady. This isn't about jealousy. It's about accountability. His face twisted. Man, screw that. Screw you. I nodded. There it is. The real Liam. His nostrils flared. You ruined my life. I tilted my head. No, Liam. You ruined your life. I just refused to lie about it. He glared at me, breathing hard. Then, after a long, tense silence, he turned and walked out, slamming the door behind him. I let out a slow breath, rubbing my temples. It was done. The bridge between us was burning, and I had no interest in putting out the flames. Liam didn't call again after that. Not that day, not the next. I expected my parents to come knocking, but for once, they didn't. Maybe they were giving me the silent treatment. Maybe they were busy trying to pick up the pieces of Liam's latest disaster. Either way, I wasn't about to be the one to reach out first. That didn't mean I wasn't waiting for it, though. For the first time in my life, I was the one who had walked away, not the other way around. And even though I knew I had done the right thing, there was still this gnawing feeling in my gut, this uncomfortable, restless sensation, like I was standing at the edge of something, but I didn't know whether I was about to fall or finally learn how to fly. I tried to push it out of my mind. I threw myself into work, spent time with the few friends I had, and did my best to convince myself that I was fine, that I didn't need my parents' approval, that I didn't need to fix things. And then, 2 weeks later, I got a call from an unknown number. I let it ring. Then, curiosity got the best of me. Hello. There was a pause. Then, a voice I hadn't heard in over a decade. Jonah. I froze. It took me a second to place it. But when I did, something cold trickled down my spine. Uncle David? Yeah, he said, clearing his throat. It's been a long time. Long time was an understatement. My father's younger brother had been cut out of our family when I was a teenager. I barely even remembered why. All I knew was that one day, we just stopped seeing him. His name stopped coming up in conversations. If I asked about him, my parents would shut it down with a clipped, "We don't talk about him." And now he was calling me. My mouth was dry. How did you get my number? A pause. Then, your mother. I almost laughed. You expect me to believe that? No, he admitted. I didn't think you would. But I promise you, Jonah, I'm not calling to make trouble. I hesitated. Then why are you calling? He sighed. Because I heard about what happened with Liam. And your parents. My stomach twisted. How? I still talk to your grandmother. That made sense. My parents never outright cut her off, even though they had distanced themselves. She had always been more forgiving than they were. More patient. David let out a breath. Look, I know this is out of nowhere, and you have no reason to trust me. But I wanted to reach out because, well, because I've been where you are. A frown tugged at my lips. What do you mean? He was quiet for a moment, then said, what exactly did they tell you about why I left? I blinked. They didn't tell me anything. Silence. Then, a soft, bitter laugh. Of course they didn't. I shifted on my feet. David, what happened? He hesitated, as if debating whether to tell me. Then, finally, he said, I left because I stopped playing by their rules. Because I stopped letting them control me. And when I finally told them no, they cut me out completely. Something inside me twisted. Because that was exactly what had just happened to me. I swallowed. They always made it sound like you were the problem. They did the same thing to you, didn't they? He asked quietly. I didn't answer. I didn't have to. He sighed. Jonah, I don't know if you need to hear this, but you're not crazy. You're not selfish. And you're not the bad guy. You just finally stopped playing the game. I closed my eyes, a lump forming in my throat. For the first time in weeks, I felt understood. I felt seen. I stood there, gripping my phone, heart hammering against my ribs. David's words settled in my chest like a weight. Heavy, undeniable. I had spent my entire life twisting myself into whatever version of the responsible one my parents needed me to be. I was the one who didn't screw up. The one who handled things. The one who put family first. But I had never once stopped to ask myself, what happens when I stop playing along? And now I had my answer. I exhaled, gripping the phone tighter. What did they do? David hesitated. Jonah, I don't know. I cut in. Don't sugarcoat it. Just tell me. A pause. Then, he let out a slow breath. They did the same thing they're doing to you now. My jaw tightened. I was supposed to take over the family business, David said. Did they ever tell you that? I frowned. No, yeah. Didn't think so. He let out a short laugh. Dad had it all planned out. I was supposed to take over the accounting firm with him. Work under him for a while, then eventually take the lead. It didn't matter that I hated numbers. It didn't matter that I wanted something else. It only mattered that it was what he wanted. I swallowed hard. That went fine for a while, he continued. Until I finally told them I was quitting. I had an offer from a company in Atlanta. A job I actually wanted. But when I told them, he let out a sharp breath. They lost their SHD. I could practically hear the tension in his voice. They tried everything. Guilt trips. Manipulation. Dad told me I was throwing my future away. Mom cried. Like, full breakdown. About how I was abandoning the family. He scoffed. Sound familiar? My stomach twisted. Because, yeah, It did. Then came the threats, David said. They told me if I left, I was on my own. That they wouldn't support me, wouldn't speak to me. They told the rest of the family I was selfish, that I was making a huge mistake. I closed my eyes. It was almost word for word what they had told me. I let out a shaky breath. And when you still left? David's voice dropped. They cut me out completely. I leaned against the counter, gripping the edge. It was one thing to suspect my parents had done this before. It was another thing to have it confirmed. I rubbed my face, my throat dry. Why are you telling me this? David was quiet for a second. Then, because I know what it feels like to think you're the crazy one. To wonder if you're actually the selfish one. To sit in that silence and wonder if you made the biggest mistake of your life. A lump formed in my throat. And I want you to know, he continued, his voice softer now, that you're not alone. I know what it's like to lose your family just because you chose yourself for once. I swallowed hard, my fingers tightening around my phone. For the past few weeks, I had felt so alone. But now I wasn't sure what I felt. Jonah. David's voice broke the silence. Are you still there? I nodded, even though he couldn't see me. Yeah, I said quietly. He hesitated. Look, I know this is a lot, and I don't expect you to just take my side on everything. But if you ever need to talk, I'm here. I closed my eyes. It had been so long since anyone in my family had offered me support instead of expecting it from me. And for the first time in my life, I wasn't sure what to do with that. I didn't call David back right away. Not because I didn't believe him, I did. But because I needed time to process everything. To let it settle. For so long, I had accepted my parents' version of events. That David was the problem. That he was selfish, ungrateful, and had turned his back on the family. And now, after everything they had done to me, I finally understood the truth. They hadn't lost David. They had pushed him away, just like they were doing to me. And for what? Because we refused to play by their rules? Because we dared to put ourselves first? It wasn't right. And for the first time in my life, I had no intention of letting them get away with it. A few days later, my parents called again. I let it go to voicemail. Then Liam called. Ignored. Then Mom texted, we need to talk. Now. I stared at the screen for a long moment before finally typing back. Why? Her response came instantly. We can fix this, Jonah. You just need to apologize. I actually laughed out loud. I needed to apologize? I typed back. Apologize for what? 3 dots appeared, then disappeared. Then, for what you did to Liam. I shook my head, exhaling slowly. They still didn't get it. They never would. And I was done waiting for them to change. The next morning, I sat at my laptop and got to work. If Liam wanted to build his entire life on lies, that was his problem. But if my parents wanted to keep funding his messes, then it was time for them to face some consequences too. I went digging. It didn't take long to find exactly what I needed. See, my dad ran his own small accounting firm. He wasn't rich, but he made a decent living. And while I had never worked with him directly, I had heard things over the years. Things about how he handled money, how he fudged numbers for certain special clients, how he bent the rules to save them thousands in taxes. He always laughed it off, called it creative accounting. But now, with everything I knew, I had a pretty strong feeling that creative was just a nice way of saying illegal. So I did some digging. I found reviews from old clients, ones that seemed off. Complaints about discrepancies in tax filings, about clients getting audited out of nowhere. And then I found it. A buried lawsuit from 6 years ago. A client had sued my dad for mishandling their taxes, claiming he had misreported income and landed them with massive penalties from the IRS. The case had been settled quietly, and my dad had made sure no one in the family talked about it. But now here it was, in black and white. And I knew exactly what to do with it. I sent an anonymous tip to the IRS. Nothing dramatic. Just a polite little email pointing them in the right direction. A few names. A few case numbers. A little nudge to make sure they took a closer look. Then I sat back and waited. 2 weeks later, Mom called me in a panic. I let it ring, then listened to the voicemail. Jonah, please call me back. It's your father's business. He's being audited. They're going through everything. I don't know how this happened, but please, we need you. I smirked. For years, I had been their safety net. The person they turned to when things went sideways. Not anymore. This time, they were on their own. A month passed. Thanksgiving came and went. I spent it with friends, people who actually valued me, who didn't expect me to sacrifice myself for them. And for the first time in my life, I felt free. Then, in early December, I got a text from Liam. You happy now? Dad's business is screwed. You ruined everything. I stared at the message for a long time before finally typing back. No, Liam. Dad ruined everything. I just stopped covering for him. He didn't respond. By January, my parents had stopped reaching out. The last thing I heard, Dad was scrambling to keep his business afloat. The audit had uncovered enough that he was now under serious investigation. Clients were pulling out. Legal fees were piling up. And Liam? Well, without Dad's money bailing him out, he was finally facing something he had never faced before: consequences. He had no job, no safety net, no one left to clean up his mess. And I had never felt lighter. For years, my parents had played favorites. They had bent over backward to shield Liam from reality, expecting me to pick up the slack. But now, the golden child was on his own, and the responsible one. I had finally stopped carrying them all. I had finally chosen me, and I had never been happier.